everyone, to episode 42 of the Toy Tune Podcast. I'm Willie, and of course I got a special guest on with me today, Johnathan. Say hello.
Hello.
What do you do, Johnathan?
What do I do?
Online. No, you run some Facebook groups.
Yeah, I run Facebook groups. I've got an Instagram, and that's probably where most of my stuff's posted right now. I tried doing a little bit of a chat show. Haven't done that in quite a while. I kind of need to get back to that. I was trying to gear up for YouTube, and that's kind of a process when you don't have enough time to do things. So.
Oh yeah, I know what that's like. Anyway, we're going to discuss our top 10 favorite toys. Now, these are not in any particular order, but just toys that we thought of as having some fond memories over the past Christmases. In the old days when we used to watch those holiday specials, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and all these other ones. I still think the squirt gun that shot Jelly got a bad rap. Just put water in the poor guy. Put him in a stocking. He would have been fine.
I would have taken the one with the jelly in it and just squirted jelly at people.
Yeah, that's true too. That would have been fun. I never could get that. It's like, hey, there's nothing wrong with him. Let's put water in him.
Well, give me that. I would take that.
Now, the caboose with square wheels, I understand. That I understand.
Unless it was like a do-it-yourself kit, you got to grind the wheels down to round.
Yeah, or on a lathe or something.
Yeah, make your own wheels, kids.
There you go. Hey, was there a favorite Christmas special you used to look forward to watching every holiday?
It probably was Rudolph more than anything. I mean, I know we enjoyed the Peanuts Christmas. Was always fun too. Those were probably my favorites. The rest, I've seen all of those other ones, but it's just those are the ones you always think about, I guess, this time of year.
Well, we had this. My dad had this flashlight he used for work. They had these little lenses that you could select. They had a green lens, a white lens, a plain white, and a red lens. And my older brother, when I was really young, when I really believed in Santa Claus and stuff, and he would go outside my window, climb up in the tree, and turn on his flashlight with a red lens. And my dad would tell me that Rudolph was outside, wait for me to go to sleep. And I'd believe him. It was like, oh, crap. So, yeah. My grandpa used to dress up as Santa Claus a lot and go by the living room window over at their house late at night to make me go to bed. I had a very interesting family growing up.
We didn't really have that. I can remember at least once where, and this was because eventually there were 6 of us kids, but this was back when it was just me and my older sister, because I'm the second out of the batch. And Dad said, come on, we're going to go drive around and look at Christmas lights. And we were like, well, is Mom going with us? No, she's going to stay here and get a shower. Oh, okay. So, we go out, and when we come back, there's all these presents under the tree all of a sudden that weren't there before, and Mom comes out of the bathroom with her hair wet, oh, Santa must have come and dropped off presents while I was taking a shower. Didn't even know. And, when you're a kid, you're just like, wow, but then later on, you're like, wait a minute. He had us out on that just so that she could finish wrapping, because we would have got into it. And then she threw him under the tray real quick and took a quick shower.
But it's so great when you're really young, It's like the magic of Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot. It's like, don't ever take that away from young kids. It's like, just let them learn on their own. Don't tell them.
Yeah.
Don't ruin the magic, because it's very
there's
fleeting.
been kids I've seen that were just being mean, horrible brats, and you just wanted to tell them, hey. but I usually clam up and just move on.
Yeah. Oh, well. Anyway, since you're the special guest, we'll let you start with one of your picks.
Okay. Well, and like you said, no particular order, so I'm just going to go start at the top of the list and go down. the first one on the list is the Mego Superman.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
it and it was one of those things where I wouldn't ask you for anything. It was we used to get together at my mom's parents, my grandparents' Halterman side, and it was one of those things where there was a certain amount of gifts there that was like we drew names out of hats so that we didn't have to buy for everybody because she was one of 7 kids. So there are a lot of people in that family. So like everybody drew names out of hats, so you bought one gift. But grandma and grandpa always got gifts for pretty much everybody. And I don't remember if it was one they gave me or one somebody else gave me. But yeah, I had the Mego Superman, and my cousin had the Mego Batman, and I played with that and played with that until the cloth outfit fell apart on it. It just joints started coming apart at the knee, and it's one of those ones you regret destroying, but it was because you loved it so much and played with it so much. So
Yeah. Yeah, a worn toy is a sign of a very loved toy, that's for sure.
yeah,
I never had the Vigo Superman. You would think, as big as a Superman fan as I am growing up, I would have one, but nope. I never did have one of those. But anyway, by the way, did you see the new Superman trailer?
yeah, I did. I watched it, and I see a lot of people complaining about it, but I think a lot of the people that are complaining about it are the people that liked the last Superman. And honestly, I wasn't a fan of the last couple of Superman movies, so I I have hopes for this because it reminds me more of Superman. To me, was always a little more like happier, more optimistic, more tongue in cheek, and I think with those they were trying to those last couple they I think they tried a little too hard to make him dark and hard, and he's not that character. At least
Yeah.
that's the way I always saw it.
I thought Henry Cavill was good as Superman, though, but
He
yeah.
looks good in the role.
Yeah.
Just like I said, they were trying like so hard to make him like dark and hard and tough when I don't think Superman needs that. He's just one of those light of the world, hope and optimism kind of characters. He doesn't have to be grim and gritty. He can stand his ground without being, you know, Batman, I guess you'd say. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I've been enjoying seeing some of the memes being posted about
oh
him,
Lord,
with him
the
in the
dog.
snow and the dog.
Yes,
They had the
the
one
one with
like,
the cat where he's like, and then they like shows him as a skeleton because he waited for the cat to come help him.
I like the one with the pug. And there was another one where you go, this is the Zack Snyder version, which had Crypto holding a machine gun standing next to him.
I think I missed that one.
Oh, that was great. I was like, oh man. But yeah, I saw the trailer the other day, and it reminds me a lot of the comic books,
Yeah,
which I think that's what it needs.
yeah, I think so too. And a friend of mine stated, and I think he's kind of on the right path with this. He said that he felt like they were trying to gear this more toward children and bring young fans back into it.
Yes. Yeah,
And
that's what it needs.
I think that's appropriate, and I think that's right because well, you have to have an audience, and there's only so much you can do before your adult audience gets bored and walks away anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and they need that. They need a superhero, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well, let's see. One of mine on my list is the Intex Galaxian 2 electronic handheld game. I got this for Christmas one year, and I played Living Daylights out of it. Carried it everywhere. I still have my original. It's all beat up. The screen is all scratched up, but still works fine. I still play it. My wife likes playing it a lot too. For a matter of fact, when we first started dating, she kind of appropriated it for like a couple years, kept it at her house to play because she liked it so much. I was like, hey.
wait a minute, that's mine.
Yeah. But it was really cool how Intex captured the arcade game into this little electronic VFD handheld with the moving stars in the background. You have the red Galaxians attacking you. You got your little blue ship. Sound effects were pretty good in it. Plus, a bonus is you can actually mute it so you can play it in the back of the classroom when no one
Yeah.
can hear you.
was gonna say I can remember those like little electronic games being like really loud and your
Yeah.
parents screaming at you about turn that thing off, you know.
Oh man.
But
Oh, this is not on my list, but I remember when I got the Coleco Pac-Man for Christmas.
mhm.
Started playing that thing. It took about 10 minutes. My dad walked up, took it out to his shop, opened it up, and put a volume control on on the speaker so I could turn it down or turn it off. It drove him insane. He was looking like that guy from Pink Panther, Inspector Dreyfus. Got the twitching eye. Oh, but yeah, that Intech Classic 2 is still one of my favorites. I got another one here that's brand new in the box that I came across at an antique store. It looks like it's never been used.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and picked it up, and I can't get rid of my old one. So I got two of these in my collection right now. My original and this other one.
Well, you know, you display the one and you just keep carrying the other around playing with it. So
Yeah, I actually do keep it next to my chair in the front room. I'll pick it up and play it every once in a while.
yeah,
It's such a great game, especially the two-player version. It's a lot of fun.
I have toys that I know lasted from when I was a kid. Here, a few of them here and there, and they are worn and they are rough. And as many things as I've restored or replaced or whatever, I wouldn't get rid of them.
Well,
No matter how rough they are, I wouldn't get rid of them. I'd just, buy a nice one to put out, in the collection if I really wanted, a nice one to look at. But I know I'd keep that old one to play.
yeah, right now I'm carrying around a Game Boy Pocket with my original Tetris cartridge in it.
Nice.
I've carried it for years to play on the plane and stuff like that.
There's no shame in that. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it. That's one of those things I never understand about people that get upset. Like, why would you carry that old game around? That's dumb. There's a lot better games now. Well, maybe, but you've got that attachment to it.
Well, I have a hard time keeping hold of when I'm on the plane. 'Cause usually the person next to me wants to try it. And someone beside them says, "Well, we want to try that." So
Hey, wait.
my game gets passed around the around the plane.
Because they've got memories attached too. Sometimes,
But yeah, it's good memories. So, what's your next one?
And I don't know if I pronounce this right or not. Is it Scopper? The
Shopper?
Scopper. Is it Shaper or is it Scopper?
Shopper.
The Stomper.
Yeah, Shopper.
Yeah. It was like I said, when I was a kid, I didn't know brand names on any of that other than Stomper. And I know like years later and not knowing it then, but like that brand changed name or changed hands several times through the 80s into the 90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can remember, and this is one of those, like everybody talks about like Cabbage Patch Dolls being the crazy thing that everybody was fighting over before Christmas, big hot Christmas toy, and that being the first thing that people went nuts over. But I clearly remember that year that Stompers came out, we were at this little toy store. It's town about 45 minutes east of us, and they had this little toy store there, and I can't even remember what it was. It was decorated like a castle, but I don't know if it was like kids play castle or what it was. But they had bins of these, and they had some kind of a sale going, and it was like the hot thing. We were in this little aisleway with 15, 20 parents around this bin fighting over what was in the bin. And, I'm a kid at the time, I'm looking at it like, what is with these people? You don't know what's going on. And, basically what mom and dad were doing was they were getting them because, my older sister had mentioned them, and they both thought that I would enjoy it. And we're in there and we're looking, and they had us basically pick out which one we liked.
Oh, wow.
So she ended up with, it's like it was a pale blue Dodge with like a wooden stake bed on it.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
And I think I know mine was red. I want to say it was probably like a Blazer or Bronco, something along those lines. I'm pretty sure it was like the cabbed over SUV,
Mm-hmm.
And that started a thing because we played with them and played with them, and all of our friends played with them, and for long it was you're out in the schoolyard having
Truck
tug of
pulls.
wars with them,
Yeah.
and climathons and races and all kinds of stuff, and it was something that they weren't horribly expensive, but that cool little four-wheel drive setup in it, and then they started adding features like wheel swaps and all this other stuff, and
Lights.
it was so much fun to play with those, even though all you did was just turn them on and let them run.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I used to tie a
I've got a
string to
pile of
mine.
them now, and the only reason I have a pile of them now is my cousin had a bunch that he had kept, and they tried to sell them at a yard sale. And it's the weirdest thing. Nobody bought them. There was even a carded one.
Holy cow.
Nobody bought. They had 25 cents on this card.
Oh
Nobody
my
bought it.
gosh.
Yeah, and this is probably going back. I'm gonna guess like 10, 15 years ago. But like, they had the yard sale, wouldn't sell, and they're like, "You want this stuff?" And hand me this big pile of junk, and in it was all of his like Stomper and Rough Rider stuff and whatnot. So I've got all that now, and I've bought a few more here and there, but they have gotten insanely expensive because
Yeah.
there's guys like us, our age, that are looking for them, want to replace the ones they had, want to get ones they never had, and so many of us played them to death.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I wore a lot of those little trucks out. I had quite a few of them. My favorite was the one that had the winch.
Yeah,
I
I never
love
had
that
one
one.
of those. I can remember getting another Christmas out at the Haltermans. It was a cement mixer. It was like kind of a like that weird industrial aqua green and white,
Yeah.
and it came with the third wheel attachment so that you could put it up on a wheelie and take off with it. The stunt wheel thing that they gave with them eventually. But yeah, probably the fanciest one I ever had really was I had one of the 18 wheelers.
Yeah.
Uh, didn't have the trailer for it, but I had one of them because they packaged those separate from those. That was probably the out of those, yeah.
Yeah. My friend, his out up at his store, he got in a huge collection, a stomper collection, a few months ago that I helped him go through. There was some semis in there and a lot of great stompers.
Yeah, that stuff brings so much money now. It's insane.
Yeah,
I'm in
they're
a couple of
highly
collector
collectible.
groups for that just to look and see because some of these guys are like building customs, especially where you can 3D print shells and missing parts and stuff. And you buy junker ones and start piecing stuff together and make customs.
Oh,
And I think it's neat to just sometimes just look in on the group and see what people are posting up pictures of what they've done recently. I haven't got that far into it, even though I've got printer stuff.
that's
It's
cool.
amazing, and you can spend a lot of time on it. And those guys, that's their thing, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite accessories for the stompers was that drag sled.
Yeah, we never had that one. I remember people having it around me, but we never had that one.
Yeah, that was a cool accessory.
It was, and that's another one of those where it's a high dollar thing to pick up now. I see these guys grabbing boxed ones and spending a lot of
Oh,
money. I'm not even gonna. I could guess, but I'd probably be wrong because I'd be going off of what I remember for a price the last time I looked at one, and they've probably jumped since then.
yeah, stompers are pretty expensive. I see them every once in a while in my travels, and they've got some hefty prices on them.
I've been picking up the little McDonald's ones where they're
Yeah.
just there's no battery and they just wheel around like a car. But uh, I think it's ridiculous. Sometimes a lot of times I could pick those up for like a buck or less, but like you'll see guys that are trying to sell them for anywhere from $5 to $20 a piece, and I'm like, it's just a little roll around. What? Okay, whatever.
Whatever.
Somebody buys it. Somebody buys it.
That's
Not
right.
me.
Well, another on my list is the Coast Guard rescue ship Vertibird. I absolutely love Vertibirds. My very first one was the police set that my brother got me. And then later on, I got a hold of the Coast Guard cutter for Christmas. And it's actually a really great toy. I don't have my original, but I do have one here, complete in the box, that looks brand new that I made a video on. That's one that's probably going to stay in my collection, probably till I die. because I love that ship so much. My original one did not survive the pond. I decided, I was really into RC, so
Yeah.
I got an RC boat and tore it apart and put the pieces on this and set it out in the pond, and it didn't make it.
Sounds like it wasn't watertight.
No. Well, it's made out of styrofoam. It floated, but boy, it didn't work out very well.
Okay.
And I couldn't get it back. It was just out in the middle of the pond.
I'm sure.
My dad goes, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I want to see if I make my vertibird float." And, it's staying there now. I ain't going after for it. So it's gone. But yeah, the Vertibird series was a great series. They had the glow in the dark one, the Night Patrol, and they had a bunch of other different ones. It was a great series of toys.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there was this company, Jasmine, I think, re-released a toy called it Chopper Command.
Mm-hmm.
And those even go for crazy prices now. And I remember seeing them on the shelves at the Toys R Us here. But now those go for nutty prices, like the Vertibirds.
I'm a firm believer that, like, if it's anything that's a really good, really great toy idea, that, like, somebody can make it and sell it, and somebody will have their emotional attachment to it, and you give it a good 10, 15 years down the road after they quit making it, somebody else could make the exact same thing with a different name. There'll be another group of kids that are attached to that, but have no idea about the one before it, and it'll just keep progressing like that.
Recycled, yeah.
Yeah. I really believe that, like, if it's a really, like, you think about it, like, how many times have they put out Light Bright? I know it's the same name every time, but they've put that out on how many times, and they just keep managing to put it back out and sell it, and people keep buying it. And I mean, right now you can go and buy replacement pegs for those, and you start talking to kids about you playing with Light Bright when you're a kid. Oh no, that's a new thing. We just bought that.
Yeah.
They have no idea about it, but the
newest
Atari
one.
Creep not that long ago was doing a little video where he was playing with a Light Bright, and we were talking about it, and we were all like, "Ah, crap! Well, I'm gonna go buy some Light Bright for Christmas now."
Have you seen the new one?
The
electronic one. They got one that's electronic. It's flat, and you can punch the little buttons to change their colors to make your different things. Plus,
see,
built-in
no, I
games.
haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
I've got one. I've got one that's LED and it's flat and it's battery powered, and it was one of the ones that I bought this in a thrift shop. My thought was I wanted to do some YouTube stuff, and one of the things I thought about doing was like using Light Bright to make signs, to set either in front of me or in the background when I'm talking. And so I was looking for the old Light Bright that we used to have, and couldn't find one. And I found this in a thrift store, and it's battery powered and flat and LED lit. And I think it's even got like a power saver feature where, like, you leave it on for too long, it shuts off on its own. But it's still all pegs, and it was one of the ones that was marketed with the Stranger Things stuff.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Well, that's cool.
It didn't have any pegs with it, and it didn't have any paper with it. So I got to get some paper and some pegs to play with it. But it does light up. I checked that, but I didn't. Actually, I think there's some pegs, but not enough with it. One of those things where, like I said, I walked in the thrift store. There it sat. It had its box with it. I looked in it, saw that most something was there, and it wasn't that expensive. So I took it home just to see what I could do with it. And that's about as far as it's got.
So what's the next one on your list?
Let's see. I went with the back to Stomper again. The Canyon playset. I can't remember the exact name of it, but they had this really big modular Canyon playset. And the fun in it is, like, we all had Stompers. We were all playing with Stompers. By then, I'm pretty sure there were 4 of us kids by then. And Mom and Dad had a habit where, and especially as we got older and there were more of us, they would try and buy something that several of us could play with at the same time. And bought this Canyon playset for us. And it wasn't even anything we'd asked for, but we all were out there in my room because that was the one, our add-on room, the one that my middle brother and I grew up in, was one of the bigger open floor rooms in the house. And we set it up out there, and we're all out there with our stompers running circles to us because they had the little wheel around ends where you had the little flap that it made tension against, and then that made it turn in a circle and come back around and go back over into the thing. So you just turn them on, and as long as your batteries were good, it just run round and around the track over and over. They had adjustable pieces too, so you can make bigger hills. There were little add-on pieces to make lumps in the terrain, and it was so many plastic parts, which is why it didn't survive, because so many plastic parts either got broken or lost. I've seen it a couple of times recently in the last couple of years, like show up in box in Facebook Marketplace ads, and I've been right on the cusp of going to chase one down, and then had to hold off to go do something else, and then they were gone by the time I got back. And wouldn't have a place. I'd have to like set it up and play with it, and then tear it back down and pack it back up because I wouldn't have a place to
leave it out. Yeah.
As many big things as I do have out, I wouldn't be able to do it with that one.
Well, my next one is the Mattel Space 1999 Eagle. I was really into Space 1999 growing up, watching the reruns in the early 70s. I had like a comm lock that I built out of Legos. I had the Remco light up gun that you project ships and stuff on the wall, and it made noises and things. But one Christmas, I got a hold of one of these 1999 Eagles. Great toy. Pretty neat. You can reconfigure it into different ships and stuff, make like little shuttle ship and things like that. But the most fun I had with it is in my backyard, I would string up wire between a couple trees and slide it down the wire like it was flying.
Zip line.
Yeah. Well, no, it actually survived for quite a while. I don't remember what actually happened to it.
Yeah.
The last time I have a good memory of it is I remember it sitting on top of my dresser right when I left to go to college. But I don't remember what happened after that, whatever became of it. I don't know if my mom and dad got rid of it, or I really don't know. I wish I still had it.
Yeah.
But I do have two of them sitting here I'm restoring right now. I recently got a hold of. So I'll be making a video about that sometime in the near future.
Toy Polloi was doing some work with some of those.
Yeah.
I saw it's been here probably in the last couple or 3 months. I saw he had some videos on that. Those look like they would be hard to take care of, considering from what he was showing, it looked like the plastic gets really brittle on them.
Yeah, the weakest point on these are the bay doors on the side. The hinges love to break. It's very rare to find one where those little hinges, little pegs have not broken off. The door will still stay on. It just won't pivot down anymore.
Yeah.
And there's been people that's been doing like different modifications to get them to fold down and everything. One of the two I have here, one of the doors still has its pegs on it. So that was kind of cool. So I got at least one of the doors that works.
Yeah.
But now I'm in a conundrum. I'm trying to figure out. I got one that has no decals on it whatsoever. I'm trying to debate if I want to try to retro bright it or paint it white and then hand paint all the details on it and hang it from my ceiling. Can't decide if I want to do that or not.
I bought a couple of model kits for some of the Space 1999 stuff just a couple years back, I guess, around Christmas time. After Christmas, I should say, because Walmart got, in our area, a couple of the Walmarts got these, like, a big 4-way display base full of model kits, and they had, some sci-fi stuff in it, and I picked up some Star Trek kits, but there was some Space 1999 stuff in that I picked up.
That's cool.
So, and actually, now I think about it, I picked up an old kit, still sealed, at a yard sale at one point.
Oh wow!
And I've been staring at it, going,
"Don't want to put it together.
Do I crack? Yeah, do I crack it open and Well, at first I looked, I was thinking, man, this thing's got to be worth a lot more than what I paid for it, and I didn't pay all that much for it. But when I got to looking at it, like it really didn't seem like they were going for much more than what I paid for either. So I was just like, well, it's not really a profit maker, so I guess I can just play with it and have fun. But at the same time, I'm like staring at that seal on it, going,
Uh,
do I crack it or
Crack it?
yeah, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard conundrum to be in. But at least I have one now that's got a box with it. The instructions are kind of foobar, but it's got all three of the figures and all the accessories. So between the two of them, I got a complete one. But the other one is really close to being complete as well. So I don't know what I want to do with that one.
Yeah. I know how that is though too, because like my He-Man stuff. There's stuff that I was like, I could do this with it, I could do that with it, or and you're just like, I've got it. I didn't pay much for it. There's people that would probably beat me over the head with a stick if they knew that I was about to do something to it. Do I care what they think, or should I just,
Go for it.
yeah.
So what's the next one on your list?
Um, and actually, we kind of talked about it already a little bit, but I had Light Bright on there, and specifically what it was is when I was a kid, there was an older Light Bright um, piece that Mom already had, the main light up box,
Yeah.
and that one Christmas, she decided it would be fun, and she bought a bunch of replacement pegs, and she bought several different, sheets for it. Your little
Punch out
pattern
things.
sheets. That,
Yeah.
and by then too, there was a lot of like 80s character IP that was being licensed for that. So like I'm pretty sure there was like some like My Little Pony and Cabbage Patch Doll stuff that she grabbed for my sisters. We probably had stuff that was like GI Joe and He-Man and things like that. It was all these characters that she knew that we loved, but it was kind of cheaper to buy that than it was to buy a bunch of those toys for us. And she also liked to encourage our creativity because not only could you make those, but you could take just the blank sheets with the dots on them and sit there and plot out your own picture. And that was one of those things she always tried to encourage. And I remember all of us kind of like taking turns swapping around and making different pictures and setting it up and plugging it in, going, look, Mom, and it was one of those things that, like, thinking back, you're like, that was so simple and so ridiculous, but at the same time, it was so important to you at the time. You enjoyed it so much. And like I said recently, Atari Creep was doing a video about it, and he was doing a live chat kind of thing. And I just got to thinking about that at Christmas and how much that was fun and how much we put into that. And in the grand scheme of things, it really was nothing.
Yeah. Very simple toy concept. But very, very popular. I had a lot of friends that had Light Brights. It's a great toy.
It is, and it like I said, you can show it to a kid now, and at first they may not exactly get it, but once they start to see the picture coming together on and it hits them what they can do with it and what it can look like, and then they're like, oh, that's neat, and they start playing with it. So
That's cool. Next on my list is the Tomy Big Loader playset. Battery operated toy that had three different functions. It had a little dump truck that would dump these little BBs into this hopper. You had a bulldozer like thing that would scoop them up. And there was another bulldozer thing that would go by the hopper to get the little BBs and dump them in this conveyor thing that would go down into the main bulldozer area. Really great battery operated toy. Most of the fun of it was just to sit there and watch it do its thing. I remember when I first saw this toy, it was set up at Montgomery Ward's when they used to do their toy displays in their Christmas area. and you see some of the different toys they were selling actually set up and working.
Yeah.
And I was just totally fascinated by that toy. So we ended
I
up
think I
getting
can
one for
remember
Christmas.
seeing that too in a store when I was little.
Oh, it's a really cool looking toy. I mean, it's interesting. Of course, you can't control the direction of the vehicle, make it go back and pick up more BBs or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's a very simplistic toy. It's just fun to watch it do its thing. It's like watching a Rube Goldberg machine.
Yeah. And I can remember a lot of odds and ends, little toy things kind of like that, where they're on like a track and they just follow the track, and it
Yes.
does the same thing over and over and over, and it doesn't change. But you'll just stand there and stare at it and watch it go for hours
Yeah. Great
because you're
toy.
mesmerized with it
So,
and figuring out how it works.
yeah. Yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, it has a little lever on the bottom that you flip it one way, it reverses direction and stuff. It's a neat toy. Mine eventually wore out. The transmission gave out on it. It stripped a gear or something.
Yeah.
But it was a great toy while it lasted.
Well,
So,
they like those they started really liking those plastic gears back then, and yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't take you play with things hard. It doesn't take long to strip plastic gears.
No. So we got next on your list.
Um, I put in the Ertl Enterprise refit kit, and I believe it was an anniversary kit. I believe it was like the 20th anniversary. But it's the movie Enterprise from back then, and it was just one of those things. Like, I was really big into Star Trek. I used to sit and watch the old reruns when I was little. Anywhere I could find them, anywhere they popped up, I was there. I was watching it. I might not have understood everything that was going on, but I was there and I was watching it, because here's these guys, they're flying around a spaceship, they're shooting at each other with these phasers, transporter tech, and all of it. And I was in. And when I wasn't quite big enough to understand when the motion picture came out, but when Wrath of Khan came out,
Ooh.
I was just like, there's a Star Trek movie? We have to go see this, Dad. Because Dad was like one of the few people that actually would watch it with me. And I was like, we got to go see this. And then I found out that there'd been a movie before that. I was like, there was a movie before that and I didn't get to see it? And yeah. So, like, when this came out, or, a little before Christmas, it was one of those things where I just keep telling Mom, Dad, I want that. I want to build that. Because at that point in my life, like, model kits were like cars and trucks.
Yeah.
And then you see a spaceship model kit like that, and you're used to everything model wise being like cars and trucks, and you're like, whoa, wait, they can do that? And you're just like, Mom, Dad, really, seriously, why did you hold this back from me? We got to go get this. So I'm in it. I remember building it. And of course, I'm like one of those other kids, or it's just like, oh, I got the model kit, oh, I got the model glue, oh, I'm sitting here putting it together, oh, it's all together, it's all sloppy, never painted. You can see all the yellowed glue seams on that white plastic from a mile away. And one of those where, like, you get on the stand, it looks cool, and you're like, then you realize you got to figure out a way to protect it from being knocked over by your brothers and sisters and anything else. And before long, somebody's trying to throw it through the room like they're throwing a glider. And yeah, it didn't last. But fond memories of it, because like I said, that was the first Star Trek kit that I ever got. That was the first model kit I ever got that wasn't a car or a truck or something.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I had the Electronic Enterprise made by South Bend that was from the original Star Trek movie. That was a cool toy. Anyway,
I would like to get some of those Mego figures that they did back then.
I had some of those. I had Kirk, Spock, and Scotty.
Yeah.
The ones I had. Next on my list, I have the Kenner Star Wars Droid Factory. Now, I love Star Wars, and I love robots. So when they came up with this toy, it was like the combination of both, where I could build my own little robots.
Mm-hmm.
Great toy. You can make all kinds of different robots. Just let your imagination run wild, which That's a sign of a good toy. We use your imagination to build
Yeah.
robotic creations of your own. Still a favorite toy of mine. I don't have my original anymore. The one I did have, I made a video on. It's up at my buddy's store for sale right now.
Yeah.
But good toy.
Yeah. I we never had a lot of Star Wars toys growing up. Um, a lot of it comes down to this. At one point, I had the old Lone Ranger toys.
Mm,
The I guess that was Gabriel. I think it's
I
the
believe
toy
so,
company.
yes.
They were,
My buddy's got
the
a.
ones they did for that movie that was like early '80s.
Yes, yes, I know what you're talking
And I
about.
had a lot of those, but those little guns disappeared at the
Yep.
drop of a hat. They would hit a hard floor and make light speed, and you would never see them again. They'd find a new dimension. And Mom hated that with passion, that we would lose those and then flip out over, hey, I can't find this or whatever. And G.I. Joe came along, and we had a couple G.I. Joe figures, but we didn't have hardly any G.I. Joe or Star Wars figures. And her biggest gripe with them was those little guns disappearing.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, we just I had friends that had a lot of Star Wars stuff, and I loved that. I love those movies, but yeah, just couldn't talk Mom into it.
They got little guns. Nope.
Nope,
Get lost. Was that your pick?
that was your pick.
Okay, what's your next one?
Um, Tommy the Atomic Robot,
Oh yeah.
and I've had to since find a replacement one for the one I had, but yeah, and there's another one of those where we're out of my grandma and grandpa's, the Haltermans, and random gift from somebody, and I open it up, and there's this toy robot in there, and toy robots in the '80s were nuts. I mean, you had Transformers and GoBots, and you had all of the Tomy Omnibot stuff, and just Max Steel, so many odds and ends like robot lines. And here's this, just it's a bump and go robot. It doesn't, and it talks and makes noise, and you have the arms can be kind of like pivoted so that they like, you can raise him up above his head, drop him down to his sides, have him in front of him. He's got little kind of spring grabbers on it. It's, a kid now would look at it and go, well, that's boring. But at the time, man, it was so much fun, because like we had a lot of those like kind of battery powered bump and go toys like that, and played with a lot of them. And here's this thing, and it makes noise, the eyes light up, and there's like kind of that fake chromed gold plate plastic on black. They came in different colors, but the one I had was black,
Oh,
and it had the gold chrome on it,
oh
and
yeah.
it's sharp. And like I said, a few years back, I bought a replacement one that just sits with my robot stuff down here by the game table, and we played with that one to death. It got to where it wouldn't run, and the arms popped off of it, and yeah, it just. Strangely enough, though, I don't think you could get a toy like that now that would take up the amount of abuse that one did, and that wasn't a horribly expensive toy at the time. But another one of those things. So I got it, and one of those, like, you didn't ask for it, but when you got it, you're just like, wow, this is cool, and you just played with it till it almost fell apart.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I always love those little electronic robot toys from the 70s and stuff, 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. My next pick is Electronic Battleship.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love playing Battleship, and when this came out in the 70s, I got it for Christmas. Played against my dad, played against my mom. Anybody I could find, I would harass them to get me to play Electronic Battleship. Mainly because you couldn't play it by yourself, really. It was a two-player game, which was unfortunate because I loved it so much. I had a hard time getting people to play me. But it's such a great game with all the different sound effects, the light up ship that lights up red when you hit, makes that exploding sound. Great toy. A really nice version of a Battleship. Of course, the later versions, I think there was another version of Electronic Battleship that had like pre-programmed placement of ships. And that one, if you didn't memorize the different codes, you could play by yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great toy. I remember finding this toy in the back of my dad's mom and dad's closet.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I was very bad about trying to see if I could find my toys before Christmas. So they would try to hide them from me. And I remember finding this in the back of the closet. So I had an extra surprise when I got it. But man, it was a long couple weeks to Christmas when I found it. Because I wanted to play it so bad.
I'll bet.
So what you got up next?
And this is really big. I still have this. Like I said, we got where we had a lot of big gift kind of things, because there were several of us, and we weren't always like big on following, what the big electronics trend was at the time. We were usually like coming in late to the party, and Mom and Dad got us the Sears Video Arcade 2 for Christmas, and that was coming close to around probably close to the time of the game crash, because I know that was one of the like we got it, and then probably within the next couple of years we started picking up a lot of games, and games were expensive for those. People don't realize how expensive those games were. But yeah, I've still got it. I had to take it and clean it up and do some refurbishment work on it several years back. And I had it all working. The power switch broke on it, and I got to find a replacement power switch, because I had just kind of done a lot of work to kind of jury rig the power switch on it to make it work to start with. And then it snapped, and I'm just like, I'm just going to be rebuilding this stupid switch over and over for eternity if I don't just find a new one. I was going to get one from Best, and I haven't done it yet.
That
but
sucks.
We were all down playing with that. And like, for people that know Atari, but like know what Atari is, but aren't familiar with that, they made a model for the Japanese market that they call the 2800, and it did not do well, because by that point there were so many much more advanced game systems in Japan. You had the Famicom, and you had Sega systems, and everybody looked at it like, why would we play that? So it didn't sell over there, and Sears around the time was wanting to work with Atari again on something, and they offered that they could rebadge that for them, and so they did. And so you have this it's a wedge-shaped body that's more like the 7800, and the controllers have the joystick and the paddle control all in one. And I remember growing up with that and playing that, and that, to me, that was always just, it was an Atari, and you show it to other people and they're just looking at you like, that's not an Atari, what is that? But we all played with that, and played with it, and played with it, and played with it. So
I've got one sitting here complete in the box. Came with the pack-in of Space Invaders.
Yeah.
Which is a great pack-in game for that system.
I went on a wild streak and started collecting for Atari several years ago, and so I've got probably 200 or 300 cartridges on the wall.
Jeez.
I had to make a rack for them.
Yeah, I mainly got the arcade translations. Is what I've got, all in the box.
There's been some times I lucked into some box copies, and I grabbed those too and just set them up there with it. People come in and they're like, "Oh my god, how am I?" Yeah, just start counting it, because I'm not gonna at this point.
It's cool to have, though.
It makes me happy every time I see it. So when it doesn't make me happy anymore, then I'll start looking at getting rid of it. But
yep. See, my next pick is the Starbird from Milton Bradley. This is another electronic toy that when you tilted it backwards and forwards, it'd make like an engine rev up sound, engine rev down sound. Had a fire button. It would flash these little LED lights in the gun ports. You can take the thing apart and reconfigure it to make different ships. It was a really fun toy to get back in the day. I mainly use it with my Star Wars guys. But yeah.
I knew several guys that had those. That's what they did with them. They played with them with their Star Wars.
Yeah. But it was a really great electronic toy. Later on, they made them. They have infrared emitters and receivers, so you can have a battle between them.
Yeah,
which was really cool. What's your next one?
Well, we're going back to video games again.
Yay!
When we first got the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Oh yeah.
And again, we were behind everyone because by then, it was just almost about the point where they rolled over to the Super Nintendo. We got the set that had the exercise mat pad thing on it too, which, you know, we all played with until we got winded, and then it was, well, lay down on, beat on it with your hands. And then after a while it was, well, this game really isn't that fun to play, so let's just play Duck Hunt.
There we go. Yeah. My wife is addicted to Super Mario Brothers.
It was a huge thing. You know, we bothered mom and dad for it for a long time, and just, you know, every Christmas, and, you know, we didn't think we were ever going to get it, and then we opened it up that morning, and it's like, oh my, you know, yeah, and then we're almost, you know, there's 5 or 6 of us kids fighting over, you know, 2 controllers.
Oh man. Yeah,
but you know, you had to take turns and trade off, and wait till people went to sleep and go play by yourself. And
yeah, the one I had when I started dating my wife, we set it up in her room, and she'd come home from work, and her dad be sitting there playing Super Mario Brothers. He was addicted to that game.
Mom and Dad never got into video games. Dad, when we first got the Atari, there were a few games he played a little bit. He had the M Network football game that he kept, and my uncles would be over to visit, and he'd talk people into sitting and playing football. But I can't ever remember him really ever playing video games much past that.
Huh.
And Mom and Dad never really got into it, but us kids did. And I'm the only one that probably seriously plays or collects anything anymore, and I don't always have enough time to do that. So
yeah. See, my next pick is a toy called the Aqua Diver. This was a Cartesian type toy where you had this sealed container of water. You had this little diving bell with a hook on the bottom, and you would squeeze the bottle, and it would dive down to the bottom, and you try to hook different objects and bring them back up to the surface.
Oh, okay.
It was a very simple toy, but I loved this thing to death. Kind of hard to play in the back of a car, though, when you're jostling around, but I thought it was such a great toy. I found one, a couple of years ago that I made a video on at a toy store over in Indianapolis. And it brought back a lot of memories of getting this toy on Christmas, filling up the bottle with water, and sitting there by the Christmas tree, squeezing the heck out of it, trying to pick up all the stuff off the bottom. My dad liked it too. He thought it was a pretty cool toy. A lot of fun.
I don't think I've ever seen that one. I can remember playing a lot of the little Tomy toys where you put water in them.
Yes, the hoops.
Of course, that was usually you were blowing like air up when you push the button and trying to throw rings onto something or little pebbles or something.
It was also known as Sea Diver, if I remember right, as well, from Sears. But the one I had was called Aqua Diver. It's a really great toy. When I had it, my wife tried it. She really liked it as well. Very simple toy, but a lot of fun. And I think it's that challenge to try to pick up the objects off the bottom of that hook before the strength of your hand runs out.
Well, it's like you hand somebody one of those little cheap Chinese plastic toy puzzles where you're like trying to get the bead in the certain spot in the little maze.
Yes. And
you hand it to somebody and it's so simple, but they're like sitting there for like 20 minutes screwing around with it, trying to get it to go into the thing.
Yeah. That's what this is like. So what's your next pick?
the Hero Quest board game.
Oh, is that the one that has the things that could shoot?
No,
No.
Hero Quest was Milton Bradley at the time formed a partnership with Games Workshop because at the time Games Workshop was most that they're the big company now like Warhammer and all that, but like at the time mostly what they were doing was making miniatures for like Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. And they had started kind of leaning into box games, and they made a deal with Milton Bradley, and they made this. It's like a dungeon crawler setup. You have a gridded game board that lays out, and it's all patterned out to look like stone floors and stuff. And you have a playbook that tells you how to set up, whatever scenario that you're playing out. And there's these little doors that you set up to represent doors going into rooms. There's things to block off things so that you don't go down a hallway that isn't there. And you have little monsters like goblins and orcs, undead guys like zombies and mummies, undead skeletons, but all these different like kind of monster types. And you are one of four characters, or you are the evil wizard running the game.
Oh, wow.
And you start out at a certain place. There's rules in the book explaining what the scenario is that you're playing out, and you are using 6-sided dice that came with it, and you are following these rules of combat. It's like really kind of watered down D&D on a board game with little plastic miniatures that represent your guys. And it in terms of games like that, now it would be considered like just really simplistic, but it was so much fun to goof with. And I found up everything I had from that set except for the box and the board several years back. And the reason why I did was I went to a yard sale one day and there was a box one sitting there, and I looked through it a little bit and it looked like it mostly had everything it's supposed to have in it. I'm like, well, I'll go dig out what I know I have and maybe I'll have a full set. And I got to digging and started counting and started looking and realized that except for the board, I had like a double set basically. Plus they made expansion modules for it too, where you could add on and have more scenarios and more games to play. But yeah, it's a really crazy detailed thing. They made a newer version of it that went through Hasbro has a Pulse Kickstarter thing, and they went through that several, like 3 years back, I guess it was. And I shelled out the money and got the full deal on that.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I've got the new set on it too. And it's one of those things I need to sit down and take the time to actually paint the miniatures for it and get some people to sit down and play. Like the new version is they changed the miniatures, and a lot of the reason why they changed the miniatures is they don't have the rights to certain IP stuff with Games Workshop, and they couldn't use the same miniature designs because they were Games Workshop. So they changed some of that, but largely the rules and the scenarios are pretty much the same. And they have made an app that you can download for free that will play the part of the wizard, the evil wizard that's kind of running it that you're opposed to. So you could, in theory, sit down and play against the wizard yourself, kind of solo if you wanted to.
Oh, cool.
And that was something too that I've enjoyed about the new stuff that they've come up with. But I remember that Christmas, I was like 88, 89. So I'm just like kind of a teenager. And I just remember telling Mom, it was one of those things where I told her, like, that's what I want for Christmas. You don't have to get me anything else. Just get me that. And this is late 80s, and that's like a $50 boxed board game at the time.
Wow.
So, that's a chunk of money.
Yeah, it is.
And
Wow.
at one point, if you were buying one of those, they were coming more like $200 to replace now. And they've gone down because of the new game sets coming out. Because people were like, well, I can play the new one, and why would I go buy the old one? Because they're so expensive. I'll just buy the new thing.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Well, my next one is Mattel's Auto Race, the little handheld electronic game. Basically, you're seeing how fast you can go so many laps with this little little LED blip. Loved this toy. Got it in my stocking. And it kind of set a precedence because I used to get a couple of these games every year in my stocking. I got my Battlestar Space Alert and hockey, football, some other ones. But I absolutely love these little LED handheld games from Mattel. And Auto Race is what started me off on all of them. I used to carry it everywhere with me. Really great electronic handheld toy.
is that the one that's got the little kind of steering wheel on it?
No, it has like a little top-down view of your race car, a little slide thing at the bottom.
Okay.
And you have like a 4-position switch on the left-hand side of the screen for your different gears. 1, 2, 3, 4. And basically what you're trying to do is see how many laps you can complete within a certain amount of time to get a final
Okay.
score. It's a fun game. It's very simple, but I loved it. Still do. I still play mine every once in a while. I do have my original still. So what's your next one?
Well, and I guess this is the last one. This is the Play School Bigfoot 4x4.
Well, I'm not familiar with that one.
Um, the you know the monster truck thing started to take off, like, that started late 70s, but like really started to take off like early to mid 80s. And Play School had the rights to Bigfoot, and let's see, they had the Orange Blossom Special, bunch of those odds and ends, like either kind of monster trucks or stuff that would show up at like exhibition kind of monster truck rally kind of stuff like that. And they're a heavy duty plastic toy, and they were built to take abuse and play. I've got one now that I picked up in a thrift that I need to get some replacement stickers for, but you have your truck body, and it's on its wheels, and it's set up with 2 levers on top. In the middle position, your power is off and it's in neutral. Flip it. The one switch controlled whether it was going forwards and backwards. If you flipped it forward, then you're going forward. You flip it backwards, you're going in reverse. Your other one controlled whether it was in 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. And then you had a switch on the back that you had a little plastic key that came with that always got lost or destroyed. And that key went in there, you turn that to turn it on. So technically you could have it set ready to go and it's not going, push the key in, turn it on. And like I said, the key was hard to twist, and so that plastic was just a little too soft. They wanted it flexible enough that it wouldn't snap, but it also almost twisted off because of how tight the ignition was, and I had just pretty much mangled my key and then lost it.
Oh.
So you pretty much had to get hold of the top of the ignition thing and switch it to the on position, and then just flip your levers back and forth to turn it, make it go. But it was like having a giant stomper kind of. And one long after that those came out, that Stomper, whoever had the Stomper brand at the time, actually turned out a large scale Stomper toy with a power winch and all these flash, bells and whistles and stuff that the Bigfoots didn't have.
Oh, wow.
But I think what it was at the time, like the Bigfoot ones, I think were really geared a little more toward, kids that were watching the Bigfoot trucks. And I think those oversized Stomper ones were really more geared toward guys that were in their teens, and I remember playing with both, but they had a whole lineup for that Bigfoot line. And there was even a little bit of a cartoon that they had for it for a while. Like Bigfoot and the Monster Trucks. They ran it in this block with stuff like the Jim and the Holograms cartoons, and Robotics had a cartoon, and there was Inhumanoids cartoons, and it was a big block of different cartoons that were all like Hasbro and Play School toys.
Yep. Basically ads for toys.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we that was another one of those that we played with quite a bit. I didn't destroy it, but the last time I saw it, it was probably 20 plus years ago, and I'm going to assume it's long since been thrown out in one of the clean out purges down at my mom and dad's house.
Oh man.
So yeah, I found that one in a thrift shop real cheap, and the only thing that's missing is
The key. No.
well, the key and a back plate and the
Oh.
stickers.
And
There's a back plate that goes over the batteries that's like a flat like it's like a flat bed cover.
Yeah.
So you take that up and that's where you put your batteries. So I tested the one I got. It works. And like I said, I've been looking for the back plate. You thought I could have found maybe like some files and printed my own copies. I think there was a key that I could print, but I don't think I could print the back plate.
Oh. Well, that's a bummer.
Yeah, I'll keep looking. I'll figure something out.
Well, eventually someone will probably do it. Well, my last one is actually the picture I used for the episode. It's the Marx wind-up train set. I remember getting one of these for Christmas over at my grandparents' house. It actually stayed over there because I could only play with it over there to give me toys to play with at their house. But it was a neat clockwork toy. It came with a circular track. And one of the things I used to like to do with this, I had these little plastic building blocks. And I would build walls and let the train crash through the wall. So much fun. I recently found another one of these, and I did a video on it some time ago. A lot of great memories of this toy. Mark's made a lot of really neat wind-up toys like this. They had another one that I didn't have, that it was a figure eight. That was a wind-up toy. Always wanted it, but never got it. But yeah.
Wasn't that the company that made that Mr. Machine toy?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Machine. Yeah, I remember those. Didn't have one, but I remember those.
See, I
Remember the
didn't have
commercial.
any of that either. That's kind of a little before my time, but I remember my grandpa always having like wind up toys like that, and uh, certain odds and ends battery powered bump and go things. He had a whole like glass curio cabinet out at their house, this out Halterman house again, and just wind up toys like that and things like that. Nothing like China or good China or anything like that. Big fancy glass case like this with, oak cabinet, and it's full of wind up plastic toys with bright colors.
Oh, that's cool. Well, one of the things I liked about these wind-up train sets was the the lithographs, images on the cars and stuff. I've always liked that about these old wind-up toys. The very colorful painting on them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Such a great toy. Anyway, that was some of our favorite. Of all those toys you mentioned, which one do you think is your absolute favorite out of those 10?
Probably gonna have to go back to the Atari because
Yeah, that's a biggie.
it's just had such a lasting. Because like I said, there's some of those things that I have replaced, some of those things I have, but that's one of those things that like I pulled it out of storage and it had been getting water leaks and dust and dirt on it. I dug it out, cleaned it up, got it running again, made it work again, and have lovingly protected it ever since. And all the collecting I do for it and still do for it, you can't tell me that's not considering as much energy as I've put into it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. It wouldn't be that way if I didn't love it, and I can't say that there's anything on that. As many as those things as I enjoy, I can't say there's anything that I've put that much energy into, since we got it.
Yeah, I'd have to say on my list, probably the Toby Big Loader is my most favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, I still love that toy. It's such a great toy. I can't say enough about it. But anyway, that was episode 42 of the Toy Tomb. I want to thank Jonathan for joining me on this. Keep me from just rambling by myself, which I tend to do. Is there any final thoughts that you have, Jonathan?
No, I just don't grow up.
Yeah, yeah. Stay young, at least inside. As always, everyone, thanks for listening.